The fall of the Valorans. The Valorans never saw it coming. Their homeworld, Valora Prime, had been a beacon of peace and prosperity in the Orion Arm for millennia. Its gleaming cities and lush forests were testaments to the harmony between technology and nature that the Valorans had perfected over countless generations. But on that fateful day, the sky turned red with fire, and the peace they had known for so long shattered like glass. Admiral Zara Voss stood on the bridge of the VSS Starbreaker, her mandibles clicking in frustration as she watched the enemy ships descend upon her world. The Valorans' fleet, once considered one of the most formidable in the galaxy, now seemed pitiful in comparison to the overwhelming force arrayed against them. Status report. Zara barked, her compound eyes scanning the tactical displays that surrounded her. Her second-in-command, Commander Krull, responded with a grim tone. The orbital defense grid is at 30% capacity and falling fast. Ground-based ion cannons are engaging. But he paused, his antennae drooping. They're barely making a dent, Admiral. Zara's exoskeleton creaked as she clenched her fists. This was no mere border skirmish or pirate raid. This was a full-scale invasion, and the Valorans were woefully unprepared. As the battle raged on, Zora's mind raced through their options. The Galactic Council, that august body of species that was supposed to maintain peace and order in the galaxy, had promised aid. But where were they now, when the Valorans needed them most? Admiral. Krull's voice cut through her thoughts. We're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's the High Chancellor. Zara nodded, and the holographic image of High Chancellor Vex materialized before her. The usually regal leader of the Valoran people looked haggard, his normally vibrant blue carapace now a dull gray. Admiral Voss, Vex began, his voice trembling. The situation on the ground is dire. Our cities are falling one by one. I fear this may be the end of our people. Zara felt a cold dread settle in her thorax. High Chancellor, we still have ships. We can evacuate as many as we can. Find a new home. Vex cut her off with a wave of his upper limb. No, Admiral. Our people will stand and fight to the last. But there is something you must do. He leaned closer to the camera, his compound eyes glistening with what Zara realized were tears. You must go to Earth. The request caught Zara off guard. Earth, the home of humanity, was a relatively new player on the galactic stage. The Valorans had formed an alliance with them just a few decades ago, finding kindred spirits in the curious and adaptable species. Earth? Zara questioned. But High Chancellor, surely the Galactic Council. The Council has abandoned us. Vex spat, bitterness evident in his voice. They fear our attackers more than they value our alliance. But humans are different. They understand loyalty. Admiral, go to them. Tell them what has happened here, and, he paused, composing himself, and ask them to remember us. The communication cut off abruptly, leaving Zara staring at empty space. Around her, the bridge crew looked to her for direction, their antennae twitching nervously. Zara straightened her posture, her decision made. Plot a course for the Sol system, she commanded. Maximum speed, and prepare a data package of everything we know about this attack. The humans need to know what they're up against. As the Starbreaker disengaged from the losing battle and prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Zara took one last look at her homeworld. The beautiful blue-green orb was now marred by angry red scars of destruction. She silently vowed that this would not be the end of the Valoran people, not if she had anything to say about it. The ship shuddered as it entered FTL, leaving behind the chaos and destruction. Zara knew that the journey to Earth would take time during which her people would be fighting and dying. But she also knew that if there was any hope for the Valorans, it lay with humanity. As the stars streaked by outside the viewports, Zora allowed herself a moment of reflection. The humans were young, brash, and often unpredictable. But they were also fierce, loyal, and possessed an ingenuity that often surprised their older galactic neighbors. If anyone could help the Valorans in their darkest hour, it would be them. "Hold on, my people," Zara whispered to herself as the Starbreaker hurtled through space towards Earth. "Help is coming." Little did Admiral Zara Voss know that her arrival on Earth would set in motion a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. The humans, with their unique blend of compassion and fury, were about to remind the Galactic Council and the mysterious attackers why it was never wise to underestimate the determination of a species fighting for its friends. As the Starbreaker raced towards Earth, carrying with it the last hope of the Valoran people, the stage was set for a conflict that would redefine the balance of power in the galaxy. The fall of the Valorans was just the beginning. The rise of humanity was about to begin. Earth's decision. The Sol system buzzed with activity as news of the Valorans' plight spread like wildfire. Admiral Zara Voss's arrival in Earth orbit had set off a chain reaction that reverberated through every level of human society. From the highest echelons of government to the bustling streets of megacities, humanity grappled with the implications of their allies' fall. In the heart of New Geneva, the United Earth government convened an emergency session. The circular chamber, usually a place of measured debate and careful diplomacy, now crackled with tension and urgency. At the center stood Fleet Admiral Helena Chen, her weathered face a mask of determination as she addressed the assembled representatives. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, her voice carrying the weight of countless battles, "the situation is clear. The Valorans, our allies and friends, have been betrayed by the very institution that was meant to protect them. The Galactic Council's inaction is not just a failure of duty, it's a direct threat to humanity's future in this galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The implications of Chen's words were not lost on anyone present. "Admiral," a representative from the African Union spoke up, "while the plight of the Valorans is tragic, surely we must consider the risks of direct intervention. The Galactic Council." "The Galactic Council," Chen cut in, her eyes flashing, "has shown its true colors. They abandoned the Valorans to their fate. What's to stop them from doing the same to us when our time comes?" Silence fell over the chamber as the weight of her words sank in. It was broken by the calm, measured voice of Dr. Aisha Patel, Earth's foremost xenoanthropologist. "If I may," she said, rising from her seat, "I'd like to remind everyone of something crucial. The Valorans were among the first to welcome us into the galactic community. When others saw us as upstarts or potential threats, the Valorans saw potential allies. They shared knowledge, resources, and friendship. We owe them more than just our sympathy." Her words seemed to resonate with many in the chamber. Heads nodded, and a renewed sense of purpose filled the air. But it was the next speaker who would truly galvanize the assembly. Captain Marcus Jansen, a decorated veteran of the Proxima Centauri conflict, stepped forward. His cybernetic eye whirred as he surveyed the room. "I've fought alongside Valoran troops," he said, his voice gruff but clear. "I've seen their bravery, their dedication. Hell, I owe my life to a Valoran medic who pulled me out of a collapsing bunker. Are we really going to sit here and debate while an entire civilization, our friends, are being wiped out?" A chorus of voices rose in agreement, but it was quickly tempered by the pragmatic concerns of others. Resources, military readiness, potential retaliation from the Council, or the unknown aggressors. All were valid points that couldn't be ignored. As the debate raged on, a message flashed across the chamber's main display. It was from the Starbreaker, still in orbit. Admiral Zara Voss had transmitted a complete data package on the attack on Valora Prime. The chamber fell silent as footage of the devastation played out before them. Cities reduced to rubble, forests burned to ash, and through it all, the indomitable spirit of the Valoran people as they fought against impossible odds. The final image was of High Chancellor Vex, his last transmission to the Starbreaker before communications were cut off. "Remember us," his words echoed through the chamber. and know that we believed in you until the end." The silence that followed was deafening. It was broken by Fleet Admiral Chen, who stepped forward once more. "We have a choice to make," she said, her voice steady and resolved. "We can hide behind protocol and political maneuvering, or we can stand up for what's right. The Valorans need us, and one day we might need them. I say we act. Now." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, but it was clear that the tide had turned. One by one, representatives stood, voicing their support for immediate action. It wasn't unanimous, but it was enough. As the session concluded, orders were already being transmitted across the Sol system. Shipyards kicked into overdrive, weapons factories ramped up production, and military personnel were recalled from leave. Earth was going to war. Aboard the orbital defense platform Olympus, Captain Layla Ortiz watched as the first wave of reinforcements arrived from Mars and the Jovian moons. Her comm chirped with a priority message. She was being reassigned to lead a task force. Their mission: to rendezvous with the Starbreaker and push deep into Valoran space. As Layla prepared to board her new command, the UES Thunderchild, she caught sight of Earth through a viewport. The blue marble hung there, peaceful and serene, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to engulf the galaxy. "I hope we're ready for this," she muttered to herself as she shouldered her duffel bag. A gruff voice responded from behind her. "Ready or not, it's coming." It was Captain Jansen, his cybernetic eye glowing faintly in the dim light of the corridor. "The real question is, are they ready for us?" Layla allowed herself a small smile. "I guess we're about to find out." As the two officers made their way to the Thunderchild, the gears of Earth's war machine were spinning up to full speed. Diplomats were already en route to neutral systems, seeking allies and support. Intelligence operatives were being inserted deep into Council space, probing for weaknesses and gathering crucial information. And in laboratories across the planet, human scientists pored over the Valoran data, seeking to understand the enemy's capabilities and develop countermeasures. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt, to innovate in the face of adversity. Now that ingenuity would be put to the ultimate test. The decision had been made. Earth would not stand idly by while its allies were destroyed. The Galactic Council had made a grave miscalculation in assuming humanity would be too cautious, too afraid to act. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. As the Thunderchild and its task force prepared to depart, a message was broadcast across all frequencies, in every language spoken across human space. To all citizens of Earth and her colonies, we stand at a crossroads. Our allies, the Valorans, face extinction. The Galactic Council has abandoned them. We will not. Today, we go to war not just for the Valorans, but for every species that values freedom and justice. The road ahead will be hard, but we do not walk it alone. Remember the Valorans. Remember why we fight. For Earth, for our allies, for the future of the galaxy itself. We go now to make history. The message ended, and across the Sol system, humanity held its collective breath. The die was cast. The next chapter in galactic history was about to be written, and Earth was determined to be the author. Preparing for war. The Sol system had become a hive of frenetic activity. Shipyards that once produced civilian vessels now churned out warships at an unprecedented rate. The asteroid belt, usually a place of methodical mining operations, now bristled with newly constructed defense platforms and munitions factories. Earth was gearing up for a conflict unlike any it had faced before. At the heart of this controlled chaos stood Admiral Helena Chen, her steely gaze fixed on the holographic display of the Milky Way. Red markers indicated the last known position of the Valoran homeworld and the estimated locations of enemy forces. Blue markers showed the gathering strength of Earth's fleet and its allies. "Status report," Chen barked, not taking her eyes off the display. Colonel Aisha Patel, the xenanthropologist turned military advisor, stepped forward. "Admiral, our diplomats have made significant progress. The Arcturians have pledged their support, and the Sirius Concordat is considering our proposal. However, the Proxima colonies are still hesitant. Chen nodded, unsurprised. The Proxima colonists had always been a stubborn bunch, fiercely independent. And our tech. This time, it was Dr. Elias Reeves, head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Division, who answered. We've made breakthroughs, Admiral. The data from the Valorant's last stand has been invaluable. We've developed countermeasures for their energy weapons and improved our shield technology. But he hesitated. Spit it out, Reeves, Chen said, finally turning to face him. We're still outgunned, Admiral. Their tech is centuries ahead of ours in some areas. We can narrow the gap, but we can't close it entirely. Not in time. Chen's expression hardened. Then we'll have to be smarter, more creative. It's what humans do best. She turned back to the display. What's the status of Operation Thunderbolt? Captain Marcus Jansen, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused, stepped up to the holographic controls. The display shifted, showing a detailed view of a massive space station near Jupiter. The Thunderchild and its task force are nearly ready, Admiral. Captain Ortiz reports that final systems checks are underway. They'll be ready to jump within 48 hours. Chen nodded approvingly. Good. They'll be our vanguard. Hit hard, hit fast, and gather as much intel as they can before the main fleet arrives. As the briefing continued, the scene shifted to the depths of Earth's oceans. In a secret facility beneath the Pacific, a team of scientists and engineers worked tirelessly on a project that could turn the tide of the war. Dr. Yuki Tanaka wiped sweat from her brow as she made final adjustments to the device in front of her. It looked innocuous enough. A sphere about the size of a basketball, covered in intricate circuitry. Dr. Tanaka, a voice called from across the lab. It was her colleague, Dr. Mohammed Al-Fayed. The simulations are complete. It works, theoretically. Yuki allowed herself a small smile. Theoretically is better than nothing. Let's hope the Nexus device lives up to its potential when we need it most. Back in space, aboard the UES Thunderchild, Captain Layla Ortiz stood on the bridge, overseeing final preparations. The ship hummed with energy, both from its advanced systems and from the palpable anticipation of its crew. Captain, her XO reported, all systems are green. The task force reports ready status across the board. Layla nodded, her hand unconsciously touching the Valoran medallion she wore around her neck, a gift from a friend she hoped was still alive. Send word to Fleet Command. Thunderchild Task Forces go for Operation Thunderbolt. As the Thunderchild and its escorts prepared to make the jump to Valoran space, other elements of Earth's strategy were falling into place. In the shadowy world of intelligence operations, human agents were already infiltrating key systems across the galaxy. Their mission, to sow discord among Earth's enemies and gather crucial information that could give humanity an edge in the coming conflict. One such agent, codenamed Whisper, crouched in the maintenance ducts of a Galactic Council outpost on the edge of known space. Her cybernetic implants allowed her to interface directly with the outpost's systems, siphoning off data that could prove vital to Earth's war effort. Jackpot, she whispered as she uncovered files detailing the Council's emergency protocols and chain of command. This information could help Earth predict the Council's moves and exploit its weaknesses. Meanwhile, in laboratories and think tanks across human space, the best and brightest minds worked around the clock to develop new technologies and strategies. They knew that humanity's survival depended on innovation, on finding ways to overcome their technological disadvantages. In one such lab, a young prodigy named Alex Chen, no relation to the Admiral, had just made a breakthrough in quantum entanglement communication. If successful, it could allow Earth's forces to coordinate across vast distances without fear of interception. It works, Alex exclaimed, their eyes wide with excitement as the test results came in. We can transmit instantly, regardless of distance. This could change everything. Their supervisor, Dr. Emeka Okafor, smiled proudly. Excellent work, Alex. I'll inform Admiral Chen immediately. This could give our forces a critical advantage in coordinating our attacks. As these preparations continued, the people of Earth watched and waited. In cities and colonies across human space, citizens did what they could to support the war effort. Factories were retooled to produce military equipment, volunteers signed up for service in droves, and a sense of unity pervaded human society like never before. In a public address, the President of the United Earth Government spoke to this spirit of solidarity. My fellow citizens, we stand at the precipice of history. The challenges ahead are great, but so is our resolve. We go to war not for conquest or glory, but for the defense of our allies and the principles we hold dear. Every one of you has a role to play in this effort. Whether you're a soldier on the front lines, a scientist in the lab, or a worker in the factories, know that your contributions are vital. Together, we will show the galaxy the true strength of humanity. The speech was met with thunderous applause and renewed determination across human space. Back aboard the Thunderchild, Captain Ortiz received the final authorization from Fleet Command. She took a deep breath, looking around at her crew, humans from all walks of life, united in purpose. All hands, this is the captain speaking. We are about to embark on the most important mission in human history. Our goal is clear: to strike fast and hard, to gather intelligence, and to pave the way for the liberation of our Valoran allies. Some of us may not return, but know that our actions today will echo through history. For Earth, for the Valorans, for all those who stand against tyranny. Let's show them what humanity is made of. With that, she gave the order. The Thunderchild and its task force engaged their FTL drives, disappearing in a flash of light. They were the tip of the spear, the vanguard of humanity's response to a threat that sought to reshape the galaxy. As they hurtled through subspace towards Valoran territory, none aboard could know the full scope of the conflict they were about to ignite. But they went forward with determination, carrying with them the hopes of Earth and the last vestiges of Valoran civilization. The first battle of the war was about to begin, and with it, a new chapter in galactic history would be written, one in which humanity would prove that it was a force to be reckoned with, a young species ready to challenge the established order of the cosmos. The first strike. The void of space erupted in a dazzling display of light as the Thunderchild and its task force dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the Valoran system. Captain Layla Ortiz's eyes narrowed as she took in the scene before her. The system, once a beacon of peace and prosperity, now bore the scars of invasion. Status report. Ortiz commanded, her voice steady despite the tension that gripped her. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Ravi Sharma, responded immediately. Multiple enemy signatures detected, Captain. Looks like they've set up a perimeter around Valora Prime. No sign they've detected us yet. Ortiz nodded. The element of surprise was crucial to their plan. Com, send the encoded burst transmission to Fleet Command. Let them know we've arrived and are proceeding with Operation Thunderbolt. As the message was sent via the newly developed quantum entanglement communicator, Ortiz turned to her XO. Commander Sarah Chen, deploy the stealth drones. I want eyes on every inch of this system. Within moments, a swarm of nearly invisible drones detached from the human ships, their advanced cloaking technology rendering them virtually undetectable. As data began streaming back, the true extent of the situation became clear. The enemy forces, a coalition of species loyal to the Galactic Council, had established a formidable presence in the system. Their ships, sleek and powered by technology centuries ahead of Earth's, patrolled in precise formations. On Valora Prime itself, massive energy signatures indicated the presence of planetary defense systems far more advanced than anything humanity had encountered before. But amidst the grim data, there was a glimmer of hope. The drones detected faint signals emanating from the surface of Valora Prime, signs that pockets of Valoran resistance still held out against the invaders. Ortiz's jaw set with determination. All right, people. We've trained for this, Execute Phase 1 of Operation Thunderbolt. At her command, the task force sprang into action. The UEA's Shadow Dancer, a state-of-the-art electronic warfare ship, began broadcasting a complex series of signals designed to confuse and disorient enemy sensors. Simultaneously, a squadron of stealth fighters launched from the Thunderchild's base, their mission to take out key enemy communication relays. As chaos began to spread through the enemy fleet, Ortiz gave her next order. All ships, execute microjumps to designated coordinates. Weapons free. Hit them hard and fast. The human fleet blinked out of existence, only to reappear moments later in the midst of the enemy formation. The space around Valora Prime erupted in a furious exchange of fire. Aboard the Thunderchild, Ortiz watched as her crew worked with practiced efficiency. Earth's ships, while technologically outmatched, moved with an agility and unpredictability that caught their opponents off guard. "Mom," Lieutenant Sharma called out. "Enemy flagship identified. They're trying to coordinate a counterattack." Ortiz's eyes gleamed. "Perfect. Helm, set course for the flagship. Weapons, prepare to fire the Nexus device." The Thunderchild surged forward, its advanced point defense systems working overtime to ward off enemy fire. As they closed in on the massive enemy flagship, Ortiz felt a moment of trepidation. The Nexus device was untested in actual combat. If it failed, "In range, Captain," Sharma reported. Ortiz took a deep breath. Fire. A small, unassuming projectile launched from the Thunderchild, streaking towards the enemy flagship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, in a spectacular display of scientific achievement, a localized field of distorted spacetime enveloped the enemy ship. Its shields flickered and died, its weapons fell silent, and its engines sputtered to a halt. "Direct hit," Sharma exclaimed. "Enemy flagship is disabled." A cheer went up on the bridge, but Ortiz knew the battle was far from over. "All ships, concentrate fire on disabled targets. Boarding teams, prepare for insertion." As the human fleet pressed its advantage, a new complication arose. Lieutenant Sharma's voice cut through the chaos of battle. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy buildup on the planet's surface. It looks like they're powering up some kind of superweapon." Ortiz's mind raced. Their intel hadn't mentioned anything like this. She made a split-second decision. "Divert all available power to forward shields. Helm, take us in. We're going to breach their atmosphere." The Thunderchild plunged towards Valora Prime, its hull groaning under the stress of atmospheric entry. On the surface, a massive cannon of alien design swiveled to track them, energy crackling around its barrel. Braced for impact, Ortiz shouted as the weapon fired. The blast struck the Thunderchild head-on, but thanks to the reinforced shields, the ship held together. As they emerged from the fireball, Ortiz saw their opportunity. "There, target that power relay station. Fire everything we've got." The Thunderchild's weapons blazed, striking the vulnerable power station. In a chain reaction of explosions, the superweapon's energy source was cut off, rendering it useless. As the dust settled, Ortiz allowed herself a small smile. They had struck a significant blow, but the war was far from over. "Status report on the Valoran resistance." Commander Chen responded. "We're picking up transmissions, Captain. They're requesting immediate assistance. Sending coordinates now." Ortiz nodded grimly. "Inform the fleet. We're going in to extract as many Valorans as we can. This is what we came here for." As the Thunderchild and its task force began landing operations on Valora Prime, the true challenge of their mission became clear. They weren't just fighting an enemy. They were racing against time to save as much of Valoran civilization as possible. On the planet's surface, human marines in advanced combat suits pushed through the ruins of once great Valoran cities. They fought house to house, street to street, against the occupying forces. The Valoran resistance, emboldened by the arrival of their human allies, fought with renewed vigor. In the midst of the chaos, A young human corporal named Zach Torres found himself face to face with a group of Valoran civilians, huddled in the remains of what had once been a cultural center. Among them was a Valoran elder, his carapace scared, and his eyes dim with exhaustion. You came," the elder said, his voice filled with disbelief and hope. Zach nodded, extending a hand to help the elder up. "We made a promise. Earth doesn't abandon its friends." As human dropships descended to evacuate the Valoran survivors, the battle in orbit continued to rage. The enemy, recovering from the initial shock of the human assault, began to rally its forces. Back on the Thunderchild, now hovering in low orbit to coordinate the evacuation, Captain Ortiz received a priority transmission from Fleet Admiral Chen. "Captain," Chen's holographic image flickered to life on the bridge. "Your attack has thrown the enemy into disarray, but our long-range sensors show massive reinforcements heading your way. You've done well, but now it's time to execute the next phase of our plan. Get our people, and as many Valorans as you can out of there. The main fleet is on its way." Ortiz acknowledged the order, a mix of pride and frustration in her voice. They had struck a mighty blow, but the war was only beginning. As she gave the orders to begin their withdrawal, she looked out at the battered but beautiful world of Valora Prime. "We'll be back," she promised quietly. "And next time, we're taking back your world for good." The Thunderchild's engines flared to life as it began its ascent, laden with rescued Valorans and carrying the hopes of two civilizations. Behind them, the first battle of the war drew to a close, but the conflict that would reshape the galaxy was just beginning. As they prepared to jump back to human space, Ortiz addressed her crew one last time. "Today, we showed the galaxy what humanity is capable of. We struck a blow for our allies and proved that Earth is a force to be reckoned with. But our greatest challenges lie ahead. Rest up, repair, and be ready, because we're coming back. And next time, we're bringing the full might of Earth with us." With that, the Thunderchild and its task force engaged their FTL drives, disappearing in a flash of light. They left behind a Valoran system forever changed, and a galactic council that was just beginning to realize the true nature of the foe they had awakened. The first strike had been made. Now, the real war would begin. Turning the tide. The war that began with the fall of Valora Prime had raged across the galaxy for months. Star systems once known for their beauty and tranquility now bore the scars of relentless conflict. The initial human strikes, while impressive, had only been the opening salvo in a grueling campaign that tested the limits of Earth's resolve and ingenuity. Admiral Helena Chen stood before the holographic war table in the heart of Earth's central command, her face etched with the weariness of countless sleepless nights and difficult decisions. Around her, a diverse team of human and Valoran strategists pored over the latest intelligence reports. "Status update," Chen demanded, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's hopes. Colonel Aisha Patel stepped forward, her usual academic demeanor replaced by the sharp focus of a wartime analyst. "Admiral, our latest offensive has successfully liberated 3 key systems in the Orion Spur. The Arcturian fleets have linked up with our forces in the Cygnus Arm, and the Sirius Concordat has finally committed their full strength to our cause." Chen nodded, allowing herself a small smile. The tide was turning, slowly but surely. Earth's diplomats had worked tirelessly to build a coalition of species who saw the Galactic Council's actions for what they were: tyranny masquerading as order. "And what of Project Phoenix?" Chen asked, turning to Dr. Elias Reeves. The scientist's eyes gleamed with excitement. "It's ready, Admiral. The combination of Valoran bioengineering and human quantum mechanics has yielded results beyond our wildest expectations. If this works—" "It has to work," Chen interrupted. "It's time to end this war." As the final preparations for humanity's masterstroke were put into motion, the scene shifted to the front lines. The UEA's Thunderchild, battle-scared but unbroken, led a massive fleet towards the heart of Galactic Council space. At its helm, Captain Layla Ortiz stood resolute, the weight of command tempered by months of hard-fought victories and bitter losses. "All ships, report in," Ortiz commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of their mission. One by one, the captains of Earth's fleet sounded off. Among them were voices from a dozen different species, former council members who had seen the truth and chosen to stand with humanity against the corruption at the galaxy's core. As the fleet approached its target, a massive space station that served as the council's seat of power, they were met by an armada that dwarfed their own. Council ships of every size and configuration formed a seemingly impenetrable wall between the Allies and their objective. "This is it," Ortiz breathed, more to herself than to her crew. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Omega. May fortune favor the bold." What followed was a battle that would be remembered for centuries to come. Human ingenuity clashed with Council technology in a spectacular display of tactical brilliance and raw firepower. The Thunderchild and its escorts danced through enemy formations, their movements unpredictable and deadly. Exotic weapons fire lit up the void as ships on both sides fell to the relentless assault. In the midst of the chaos, a small, nondescript vessel slipped through the Council's defenses. Aboard was a joint team of human and Valoran specialists, led by none other than Dr. Yuki Tanaka and her Valoran counterpart, Chief Scientist Zexera. Their mission: to deploy Project Phoenix at the heart of the Council's power. As they worked feverishly to set up the device, the battle outside reached a fever pitch. The Council, realizing too late the true nature of the threat, began to concentrate its fire on the station itself, willing to destroy their own seat of power rather than let it fall into enemy hands. "We're out of time," Zexera chittered, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Yuki's hands flew over the controls of Project Phoenix, her face a mask of concentration. Just a few more seconds. Outside, the Thunderchild took a devastating hit, its shields failing as it moved to protect the station from the Council's desperate assault. Captain Ortiz gritted her teeth, knowing that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. "Hull breach on decks 5 through 8, her XO reported. "We can't take much more of this." Ortiz opened her mouth to respond, but her words were cut short as a blinding light erupted from the heart of the Council station. For a moment, it seemed as if time itself had stopped. Then, like a wave of pure energy, something burst forth from the station, washing over ships of both sides indiscriminately. As the light faded, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. Ortiz blinked, trying to clear the spots from her vision. "Status report. What just happened?" Her tactical officer's voice was filled with awe. "Captain, I don't believe it. All Council ships have gone dark. Their weapons, engines, everything. It's just stopped." Project Phoenix, the culmination of human and Valoran science, had worked beyond their wildest dreams. The device had unleashed a targeted electromagnetic pulse of unprecedented power, coupled with a bioengineered virus that specifically targeted and neutralized Council technology. In one fell swoop, the seemingly invincible Galactic Council armada had been rendered impotent. As the Allies moved to secure the Council station and the disabled enemy ships, the true impact of their victory began to sink in. This wasn't just the end of a war, it was the dawn of a new era for the galaxy. In the days and weeks that followed, the old order crumbled. With their technology neutralized and their lies exposed, the corrupt leaders of the Galactic Council were brought to justice. In their place, a new galactic alliance began to take shape, one founded on the principles of mutual respect, cooperation, and the recognition that diversity was a strength, not a weakness to be feared. Humanity, once seen as upstarts barely worth noticing, now stood at the forefront of this new alliance. Their creativity, adaptability, and unwavering determination had not only saved their Valoran allies, but had reshaped the very fabric of galactic society. On a rebuilt Valora Prime, now a symbol of resilience and renewal, Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to sign the charter of the new Galactic Federation. Admiral Helena Chen, now serving as Earth's ambassador, stood alongside the restored Valoran High Chancellor Vex. As Chen put her signature to the document, sealing humanity's commitment to this new era of cooperation, she couldn't help but reflect on the long, hard road that had brought them to this point. "You know," Vex said softly, his compound eyes gleaming with something that looked suspiciously like pride. "When we first encountered your species, many doubted you would ever be ready for the complexities of galactic politics. I think it's safe to say you've proven them wrong." Chen allowed herself a small chuckle. "We humans have a saying, Chancellor. Necessity is the mother of invention. You needed us, and we rose to the challenge. That's what friends do." As the ceremony concluded and the assembled dignitaries began to disperse, Chen's gaze was drawn to the stars visible through the Grand Hall's transparent dome. Out there, countless worlds and species were coming to terms with this new reality. A galaxy where cooperation trumped conquest, where diversity was celebrated rather than feared. The road ahead would not be easy. Old hatreds and prejudices would not disappear overnight. But for the first time in millennia, there was hope for a truly united galaxy. A young Valoran approached Chen, its carapace still bearing the marks of recent battles. "Ambassador," it said, mandibles clicking, and what Chen had learned was a gesture of respect. "I was wondering, what does humanity plan to do now? You've helped reshape the galaxy. Surely you must have great ambitions." Chen considered the question for a moment before responding. "Our greatest ambition, young one, is to explore, to learn, and to grow. We humans are curious by nature. This vast galaxy, with all its wonders and challenges, is the greatest adventure we could ask for, and we're honored to embark on that adventure alongside friends like the Valorans." As Chen turned to leave, she caught sight of Captain Ortiz and her crew, now hailed as heroes across a dozen worlds. They stood tall, their faces a mixture of pride and wonder at how far they had come. In that moment, Helena Chen knew that whatever challenges the future might hold, humanity was ready to face them. They had proven their worth not through conquest or domination, but through courage, innovation, and an unshakable loyalty to their allies. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity, once a small overlooked species on a tiny blue planet, had taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as friends, protectors, and pioneers of a brighter future for all. As the new Galactic Federation took its first steps into an uncertain but hopeful future, one thing was clear: the spirit of humanity, its resilience, its creativity, its unwavering determination, would be a guiding light for generations to come. The story of how Earth avenged the Valorans and reshaped the galaxy would be told and retold across countless worlds. It would inspire future generations to reach for the stars, to stand up for what's right, and to never underestimate the power of friendship and alliance in the face of overwhelming odds. For in the end, it was not superior technology or overwhelming force that had turned the tide. It was the uniquely human qualities of adaptability, ingenuity, and unbreakable spirit that had changed the course of galactic history. And as the stars twinkled in the night sky of 1,000 worlds, the message was clear. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and the universe would never be the same again.